A significant California artist, Robert Anderson. Robert Anderson was a California-born sculptor and ceramic artist who is the father of a genre he created, funk art. Funk art is known as an anti-art establishment movement that brought humor and freedom into the world of ceramics. Before Anderson, ceramics had an air of seriousness, the pursuit of perfection. Arneson's art opened up and redefined the mediums. Arneson was born September 1st, 1930 in Benicia, California. He attended college to California College of the Arts in the Bay Area. He has a background working as a cartoonist for a local newspaper before this, so you can see some of that cartoon background coming through in his ceramic works. Arneson went on to teach ceramics at University of California at Davis, where he did that for almost 30 years. He has many sculptures around the UC Davis campus, and he helped to bring ceramics into the world of art. The most prominent on the campus are the eggheads that giants has reading books or making funny faces. He used ceramics as his voice instead of just making nice bowls and vases. He passed away in November 1992 after a battle with liver cancer. His late work reflected this. Anderson's work is very approachable. He started in watercolors and decided to take a ceramic class while at Miles College. His first ceramics were ugly, whimsical, and full of energy. He went on to be one of the leading ceramists of the 60s and 70s. Most of his sculptures are self-portraits. Anderson looks like an artist. He has a bald head with messy white hair on the side of his head and a beard. His most famous work, the one we learn about in this class, is California Artist. California Artist was a response to negative New York art critics who criticized California artists and did not give any artwork from here respect. Arneson's response was to poke fun at the statement. If California artists are considered airheads who smoke weeds, drink beer, and live a hippie artist lifestyle, that is what his sculpture became. California artist shows Arneson wearing an unbuttoned denim work shirt, arm crossed with a beer cans, marijuana plants surrounding him. He is wearing avatar-style sunglasses, but the lenses were up hollowed out to imply an empty brain. I think this is one of the points of art, to make a statement. Art is meant to be an expression of oneself, and this is how Anderson chose to express himself. His work was influenced by pop art and is something that had not been applied to ceramics at that point. His self-portraits became his trademarks. They were humorous and he depicted himself in many different situations and guises. His later works would address the political landscape. He made sculptures in his same style that tackled issues of nuclear war. Anderson passed away from liver cancer, and he didn't let his battle stop him from creating his art. He made self-portraits of him during chemotherapy in his typical self-portrait style. The themes in this became much more serious than his usual works. He is depicted showing despair, torn skin, strange, worrisome expressions on his face. The sculptures are made with a terracotta look, and there are pieces missing from the sculpture. This was intentional to show his own mortality in his work. When you compare either of these camel pieces next to California artists, the mood immediately changes. I got sad just seeing these pieces. I could not imagine the feelings a human must feel when they know their time is limited. He battled cancer for 2 decades. He had a kidney removed in the chemotherapy process and his body began to deteriorate. The deterioration is reflected in the pieces, and this technique is not typical of sculpture work because it looks unfinished, but it is intentional. We see firsthand the pain this man was going through, and it causes me pain to look at these pieces. I want to touch one. I want to touch on the camel series because it was not mentioned in the class. We all have a vision of arnesons being this fun, whimsical, carefree California artist, but we were missing an important part of his story. Expression is part of being an artist, and that goes for every emotion. I think mortality is an important topic that often gets overlooked. It is a topic that is written about often in film. This is stories similar to his, but as a ceramic artist, to come out and sculpt yourself dying is a bold move. It shows strength and character. It shows that he wanted to leave it all out there, the good and the bad. What it does is gives the viewer more education of his life. I applaud Arneson for battling cancer for so long, and I applaud him for leaving these pieces as a part of his legacy. This is something we should account for in his significance as a California artist. Not only did we get to see his personality come through in his funk art sculptures, but we got to see a man's courage. It is the same courage take a man from leaving his family in pursuit of gold and better life. It is the same courage that pushes a man to leave his home country of Mexico and pursue art in California faced with racism. It is the same courage that we saw in women pursuing a career that they were not taken seriously at and treated as equals. Robert Anderson has cemented his place within California art as a pioneer, innovator, and a true artist. He did his duty of teaching the younger generation what he has learned by being a teacher for so long at the UC Davis. He created his own genre of arts. He broadened people's horizons, and he did so with a smile on his face. I find him to be an inspirational figure. His legacy will live on, and I will share that what I have learned about this man with my friends. We have learned a lot of great things in this class. I was exposed to so many artists that I've not seen before. When I think back on what defines California art, I think of the beauty of the state. I think of the landscapes, and I think of the different types of art and different types of artists. The significance of California art within broad spectrum of the art world is that California art is special because it was made in California. My favorite artist from the class is one of I chose to write about, Robert Anderson. But there were so many other great pieces that were significant on their own rights. I was especially proud of reading about the women's movement and that women were given a chance in art. Grace Carpenter Hudson, for example, as one of California's best-known women artists, used her camera to make sketches for her oil portraits. We also see how nature is a dominant theme within California art. Piazzioni had a standout piece for me in his Reflection 1904, with a figure standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. But the style of it is so unique. It is not typical painting of landscapes, but instead it uses a more abstract approach to capture the mood of what the person might be feeling while pensively looking out of into ocean. Ansel Adams captured Yosemite with such gusto that he would carry a very large camera with long exposure time to create his beautiful, perfect images, such as Yosemite Valley thunderstorm. Maynard Dixon captured the Native Americans and the landscape in his own unique style that included impressionism, cubism, tonalism, and precisionism. One of my favorite pieces from him is Medican Robe, 1915, which was not featured in this class. It shows a Native American man draped in a long robe, staring out into the distance, much like Piazziani's reflection. I find myself in the same poses when I go out into California nature. I guess it has the same effect on people. It draws you in and makes you feel at home. After studying artists and artworks from California and histories behind them in the summer, it makes me feel so lucky as a woman living in 21st century in California and living this equality and freedom brought from revolutions of our ancestors.